Dr. Al-Tayyeb Abbas will be speaking to us about the Tutankhamun Gallery at the Grand Egyptian Museum. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Al-Tayyeb.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. I would like first to thank the organizers of the conference for inviting me to give a talk today about the Gallery of King Tutankhamun at the Grand Egyptian Museum. But I think before proceeding to the gallery, it is really important to give a brief introduction about the Grand Egyptian Museum. The Grand Egyptian Museum is a complex of nearly 5,000 square meters, 5,100 square meters, next to the Great Pyramids of Giza. This special location has greatly influenced our architecture, and the gem has become a commanding horizontal presence in the landscape. We are a huge and a brave, dramatic building with the roof of a series of concrete and glass wings climbing up towards the pyramids. We are also the largest museum dedicated to the history, people, and culture of ancient Egypt. The building covers over 130,000 square meters, and it contains a number of exhibition spaces which are larger than many other functioning museums at the moment. These include the Grand Hall, the Grand Staircase, the Tutankhamun galleries, the main galleries, and Khufu Boat Museum. Our overarching theme is kingship. So after arriving at the ticket office, visitors will be able to go past a large Ramesses II obelisk that we brought from Tanis in the Eastern Delta. And then visitors will be able to enter into the Grand Hall. This is an immense area, over 40 meters high, and it is the hub of the building. And from here, visitors will be able to go up to the museum buildings and educational spaces to the south, or to the conference, entertainment, and refreshment and shopping facilities to the north, or to the Khufu Boat Museum to the west. So this is the atrium. This is the museum building. Here is the Khufu Boat Museum, and this side we have the different facilities and shops. Both the Grand Hall and the Grand Staircase focus on kingship and power. The Grand Hall welcomes visitors, as you see, with the large statue of King Ramesses II that is displayed along with other great kings and queens of Egypt. The grand stairs are a vertical gallery and a key pathway within the museum, taking visitors to different floors via elevators, travelators, and steps, ending with a panoramic view of the pyramids, of the Great Pyramids at Giza. So if you look here, this is the Grand Staircase. On the top here, oh, sorry. Oh, this is really tricky. Here, if you are standing here, you can see the three pyramids of Giza. And if you are coming to this point, you will have two options: to go right to see the two galleries, or to go to the left to see the main galleries. Objects on the Grand Staircase are arranged in different themes. Storytelling, as we know that people like stories, so storytelling is vital to the gem message, and all our displays are interpreted for visitors in different ways. Everything is in Arabic and English, and some other galleries have other languages as well. On the third floor, we have fantastic view of the pyramids, as I said, with the main galleries to the east and Tutankhamun galleries to the west. The main galleries are entered from the landing at the top of the Grand Staircase and included over 22,000 square meters. gallery space, and these contain like 12 exhibition spaces and containing objects from the prehistory until the end of the Greco-Roman period. The Khufu Boat Museum is a separate building behind the west of the Grand Hall. It will display 2 large boats of King Khufu that were found in 1954 next to the Great Pyramids of Khufu. On the boat, one boat, or the first boat, has already been excavated and fully reconstructed and is now on display, while visitors will be able to witness the real-time conservation and reconstruction of the second boat as part of the dynamic display. On the second floor, we also have large children's museum and educational facilities and a library. Local tourists will be able to come to the Grand Egyptian Museum via the bridges and the new roads currently being completed, with around 3,000 parking places available in the complex, or by traveling on the newly constructed Metro Line 4, arriving at the Grand Egyptian Museum station, while international tourists will be able to arrive via the new Sphinx Airport. Coming back to the Gallery of King Tutankhamun. Taking on display the complete collection of the king in the new National Museum for Egypt has been a great privilege, but also a huge responsibility for all who have worked at GEM. The phenomenon of King Tutankhamun transcends national boundaries in many ways, as it is a shining star in the collective of a human history. Creating any new exhibition, as all of you know, or some of you know, that is a long, challenging, and very complicated task. Imagine, if you will, working with perhaps the most famous, the most well-known, and also one of the most important collections of the ancient objects in the world, with the star object being best-known artifact from ancient Egypt, and probably the single most valuable object that has ever existed. In the 21st Century Museum, with the best and most up-to-date facilities, our first phase of development was deciding and refining the narrative of the exhibition, meaning what we are going to show and tell visitors and how we are going to do it. From the beginning, it was clear that the exhibition should go beyond the simple display of objects. We decided instead to use artifacts to give a picture of the king's world and his place within it, and to explore his life, death, and also his afterlife. At the same time as creating the story, we also had the massive task of sorting and grouping the thousands of objects that make up the collection. In this way, we were assisted by the records of Howard Carter and his team that have been made available online, and also by the Griffith Institute. We first had to consider the very famous objects, the ones most often published in books and also websites, many of which have spent more than 50 years traveling around the world as mobile ambassadors in exhibitions all over the world, and I am very grateful to many international institutions that have freely provided us with the images, records, and also content from these stores. From the outset, the GEM intention has been to show these star artifacts, including the mask, the coffin, the statuary, the shabti, and his jewelry, in the best possible and most up-to-date conditions. This has meant consideration of wayfinding, visitor pathways, narrative flow, and also visibility, light levels, temperature, accessibility, and also comfort. You will be pleased to hear that the exhibition is fully inclusive, with integrated ramps and elevators and accessibility elements embedded into the design. And there are also bathrooms and lots of seating. The gallery is designed to allow visitors to move easily from side to side, as well up and down the length of the exhibition, so they do not miss anything. Visitors can start their journey at Tutankhamun and his family, or at the discovery of his tomb. From these areas, They can explore how the king lived, how he might have died, how he was buried, and what he hoped for his afterlife. The layout is designed for short, medium, and also detailed tours of the gallery, and people can follow our suggested routes or choose their own path. Many of the less known objects that have been brought from the storage will be shown for the first time, and they will be rediscovered by the visitors through the stories we tell. These include the king's textiles and the clothing, his food and the drink, and hundreds of different weapons. Malik once counted the objects according to the records of Carter and reached the figure of 5,398. In fact, when we brought all the objects from the storage facilities in Luxor, Tahrir Museum, and Textile Museum, we can say right now that they are easily more than 6,000 objects. And all of these are on display in our new gallery. Luckily, we have enough space. With over 7,500 square meters, which is more than 6 times the size of the previous Tutankhamun exhibition area in the Egyptian Museum, Cairo. Dr. Zahi was talking yesterday about the work that is being done in the conservation labs. And here, along with more than a year of detective work to identify, sort, and group the collections, all Tutankhamun collections from the gem or that came to gem since 2010 have been studied, conserved, and restored by the young and dynamic team in our conservation center. Great discoveries have been made, especially in our wood, metal, and organic labs. We have also used the records of the Egyptian Museum, Howard Carter, and others to reunite and reconstruct many disparate pieces that are now probably displayed together for the first time. We have restrung most of the king's necklaces. Careful study of the original excavation records and photographs has enabled us to reincorporate many thousands of gold and faience elements and to reconstruct them correctly. The king's gilded open-work shields are another success story. They would have offered no protection from enemy weapons, but all of them are full of symbolism, praising the king in the front of the gods. We have been able to remove the previous conservation, including packing, that seems to have been added soon after the discovery, and they are all now on display. A good example of the sort of decisions we have made can be illustrated by taking a look at this fancy wooden box. It is decorated in gold, turquoise, faience, and colored glass inlays with names and titles of the king. The box was found sitting on the top of the lion-headed funerary couch. The excavators believed it had been stored there after one of the robberies, and they described the contents of the box, I do quote, miscellaneous collections gathered hastily together. In other words, they believed that a random collection of objects were shoved into a box when the tomb was being tidied. The contents include gold plaques from the chariots, faience beads, necklaces, royal leopard skin cloth decorated with gold stars, and a wooden leopard head, a tunic covered in beaded work that collapsed the minute it was touched. 2 models adzes, golden rimmed wooden bowl, a single glove, Kohli tube, a scarab, and a child-sized gold ring, and the glass royal crock. There was also a long linen shawl, wrapped around the 8 gold rings and 2 scarabs. The general interpretation of this group is that the shawl and its contents were seized from the tomb robbers caught in the act. Now, if we are making a temporary exhibition or a traveling exhibition or a traveling show, this would make a really lovely exhibition. But because we are showing the whole collection of the king in its new permanent home, we have concentrated on bringing as much information about and around each object. So instead, these have been divided between 13 different showcases and also between different topics and themes. Most were simple to clean, restore, and install in the exhibition. The more challenging were the textiles. The sequin ropes have disintegrated, but the beads are now in our tonic showcases. The real leopard skin is in a poor state, but it has been conserved and stabilized and is now in our costume showcase. The linen shawl was another dilemma. We know that it had been unfolded and measured by Carter, this one. Who said that it was about like 4.6 meters long. At first, when we were discussing to unfold the shawl or not, we were very hesitated because of the risk. But after more than a year of studies and tests, we decided that it was important that the visitor should be able to see the special object or this special object that was carefully made for the young king. With 7 bands of red and the blue strips running down the length of the fabric, and hemmed slats near each end that may be armholes. It seems that the scarf was used wrapped around the king's body to form a tie jacket. And this is now displayed, already on display in its appropriate showcase. We have to say that conceptually the tomb and its objects illustrate real funerary customs and the religious ideology of the post-Samanid period. Practically, the collection is a group of brilliant artifacts in a superb condition, giving us a snapshot of the technological and artistic achievements from a royal context in the late 14th century BC. We have also never lost sight that the collection also represented the death of a very young man who was almost certainly the last surviving descendants of the Thutmoside dynasty, starting almost 200 years earlier with King Thutmose I. And the elaborate preparation made by his family, friends, and subjects to mourn his loss, protect his remains, and held the journey to his soul into the afterlife. No small task then to put all of this into action. Our detailed curatorial brief and object lists are divided into 5 different themes, and these include discovery, identity, lifestyle, funeral, and rebirth. These themes which cover or which form the scenario of exhibition of King Tut Gallery. So identity, for instance, covered the king's family tree, his parents, his childhood, and the theories about his health and cause of death. Lifestyle shows how the king lived. Funeral includes all the objects for burial rituals. Rebirth discusses many of the more enigmatic beliefs and objects related to his afterlife. And finally, discovery is concerned with the process and personalities involved in the discovery, excavations, and worldwide reception of the tomb and its collection. In many of the interpretive texts and other elements, we are giving our visitor the space to come to their own conclusions. We are not prescriptive and have not insisted on definite answers where they do not exist, or of facts if they are missing. Rather, we have offered different interpretations and outlined current theories. We have also been careful not to draw firm distinctions between, for example, ceremonial or model as opposed to real or ritual. Kings and their public actions were all of these things at the same time, and many of his positions were no doubt filled with layers of meaning, some lost to us now, and these are the sort of questions we have tried to draw out in our exhibition. There are 4 different levels of interpretation or interpretive text. These are positioned throughout the galleries. Visitors can dip in and out of them. They do not have to read them in a particular order. We start with introductory themes on the walls panels, as you see here. Then detailed sub-theme on freestanding panels explaining what people can see around them. And then topic panels telling the story of the showcases on the outside and object labels on the inside of our 106 showcases. See, so people can choose how much or how little information they would like to absorb. Everything in Tutankhamun Gallery is presented in Arabic and English and also in Japanese. So imagine for a moment the scale of the task. I can tell you that the revisions, the round of revisions for the text of King Tutankhamun took at least 2 years, more than 20 rounds of revisions. We also use different media to give more context and explanations, and these include interactive tables, backlit screens, models, and movies. Almost all the collection is now installed. Our complete suite includes design, layout, security, lighting, atmospheric conditioning, and each showcase has detailed plans along with a mounting and installation schedule. For the safety of the artifact, we use a new system of first and second fix so that many of the objects could be mounted in the conservation center and then transported along to our dedicated tunnel to the gallery. So if you look here, this is the conservation center, and these are the labs and the storage rooms. We mount the artifacts in the conservation center, and then we transport them through a tunnel which is connected between the conservation center and two galleries. So the artifacts do not need to go out of the museum. So for the safety, we have used first and second fixing system, so the objects could be mounted in conservation center and then transported to our dedicated tunnel and installed on site. Okay, the first GEM International Tutankhamun Conference in 2015 focused on one of the most important issues, which is moving all the 4 shrines from the Egyptian Museum in Cairo. These fabulous and unique objects have been the focus of a number of international and scientific studies over the last 20 years, with new solutions proposed, including even removing the roof of the museum and flying them out with helicopters. Can you imagine? Okay? Shrines being wrapped. If you look here, this is one of the shrines in the Egyptian Tahrir Museum, or in Cairo Egyptian Museum. In fact, the shrines have already been installed. We have transported all of them, and they are all on display at the moment in the Grand Egyptian Museum. They have been moved, conserved, and they are now installed in their custom-built showcases inside the gallery. Along with the gallery text, we also have interactive tables that explains and interpreted these extraordinary objects for the visitors. So this, how they look in the design. This is the design. We do not usually show pictures from the gallery, but for you, this is how the shrines look like right now. So these are shrines after have been moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum. And here I would like to thank the team or the conservators and the people who are working in the Grand Egyptian Museum, because honestly it was one of the, I don't know how to say it, but this was really difficult. This was really tough. We took almost 2 years to deciding how to move it. And then, because we also have got reports telling us not to move them. But then, with the courage and with the knowledge, we were able to move them. So this is how they look like right now in the Grand Egyptian Museum. These are also big. I was once talking to one of my friends, and he has sent me a Facebook post saying that these shrines has been another important success to the Grand Egyptian Museum in 2019. To be honest, I was so pleased to be able with the team to bring the outermost coffin of King Tutankhamun to the gem. As you know, all of you, that along with the king's body, this had remained in the Valley of the Kings since the discovery of the tomb. As a native son of the West Bank, I was really worried about the negative impact on local economy if we took it away. However, it was clear that the coffin was suffering from moisture caused by the breeze of hundreds and thousands of visitors coming to the tomb every day. When the permanent committee, and I would like to thank the permanent committee for taking the brave decision of moving or transporting the coffin from its tomb to the Grand Egyptian Museum, because we could not leave it more than this. I am a Kurnawi from the West Bank. So the people, when saw me coming to the Valley of the Kings and taking the outermost coffin, it was one of the experiences that, as Dr. Zahi was talking yesterday or 2 days ago about the curse, when we took the coffin out, first it was in August, it was really hot. It was really, really hot. And then when we were taking it from the tomb and moving it on the stairs, then the light went off. And one of the men who was carrying the coffin with the team, honestly, the coffin was about to fall. And this guy then, he was just squeezed between the coffin and the wall. And then when I was telling him, just take care, what he told me that I will die and the coffin will not fall. And from here, I would like honestly to thank these local men who helped us moving and transporting this coffin. Since coming to the gem, and after extensive fumigation, study, and conservation and restoration, the coffin is one of our star objects, and all of the 3 coffins of the king will be displayed inside dedicated showcases and funeral themes. During the process, we have been grateful for the help, advice, and opinions of international colleagues. I do still remember Mark Gaboldo, when he came and spent like a week going into the storage rooms, and we were discussing every single bit in each single text that we have written. Thank you, Mark. During the process, we have been grateful for the help, advice, and opinions of international colleagues, not least those who have presented papers at our 5 international Tutankhamun conferences. And I have also enjoyed healthy debate with the scholars as we defined exactly what to say or not about some of our more unusual objects. You may have picked by now, this is the coffin after it has been transported, okay? You may have picked up now that I am immensely proud of what our team at the Grand Egyptian Museum have created, and I look forward very much to welcoming all of you to our splendid new museum and our fantastic new gallery. However, for many of us, perhaps the most significant achievement of Tutankhamun Gallery in the Grand Egyptian Museum is that it represents, for the first time, an Egyptian interpretation of our own history. We as a nation have finally taken ownership of our greatest national treasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Al-Tayyeb, for such a wonderful presentation that clearly reflects the incredible